Aaron Melnick is senior fellow at the American Immigration Council. Here is what he said about this new 2026 budget bill, the spending on ICE detention facilities. Everybody's talking about Medicaid, cuts to Medicaid and food stamps. But one of the most underreported stories about this budget is it's turning us into a police state. It really is. This is what Aaron Melnick wrote. If this bill passes, he wrote this obviously before it did, it could make ICE the nation's largest jailer, with more funding for detention than the entire Federal Bureau of Prisons. It would give ICE enough money to have more officers on board than the entire FBI. This alone could transform American society forever. So I'm in a bad mood over this budget. I told you the Republicans were going to pass it. And if you had been listening to me for the past 5 years about abolishing ICE, I warned you, go back and listen to my shows. I said ICE will be the palace guard for any president who has ambitions to turn America into a genuine police state. I warned you about this. I said ICE is folded into the Department of Homeland Security, which means it answers only to the President of the United States. I said this has all the makings of the SS, the Gestapo. I warned you. I said we have to abolish ICE. I get a lot of things wrong, okay? I said Harris was going to the worst case scenario mug. I get a lot of things wrong, but I told you that we had to abolish ICE. Kamala Harris, before she ran for president in 2020, said we need to reevaluate whether or not we need ICE. David Hogg, right? The big young gun who just left the Democratic Party. Before he went to Harvard, he was saying abolish ICE. Suddenly, they get a taste of power, and it's complicated. Abolishing ICE, this is the Gestapo. Now, it is. This is the Gestapo. Here is a graph. I want you to look at this. Can you see this? Yes. This is a graph from Dan Moynihan, who writes over at Substack. He has a new piece about the massive new funding for ICE entitled How the Reconciliation Bill Would Change America. Well, he wrote this as a warning. He didn't actually think this reconciliation bill would get passed with this kind of funding for ICE. This is a pie graph of 2025 funding for ICE. Look at that. So the big chunk, and I'm colorblind, so I think that's dark blue, that is ICE, border security, $34 billion. Look what the FBI gets, $4.2 billion. Secret Service, $3.1 billion. DEA, $2.5 billion. The Department of Justice, $2.5 billion. Department of Homeland Security, $1.7 billion. And the ATF, $1.6 billion. Look how much money is allocated to ICE when it comes to law enforcement for 2025. It's going to get worse. It's about to get worse. ICE just got like a 300% bump for 2026. Is that what it is? Yeah. The Nation magazine reporting that ICE will get $45 billion to spend over the next 4 years to build out its capacity to hold as many as 100,000 inmates. Although the Cato Institute says it's going to be 200,000 inmates. And the Cato Institute is a conservative think tank funded by the Koch brothers. So this $450 billion will be handed over to the for-profit detention corporations Geo Group and CoreCivic. And according to the Nation, that $45 billion bump that's going right to the for-profit prison. Oh, damn it. I have automatic tracking. I can't. Oh, what happened? If I gesticulate, this is what AI does. What are you doing? Oh, stop. Or back to normal. It won't go back to normal. Hang on. Sorry. All right, let's see. Did I do it? Wouldn't it have been great if I had people tied up? Like I was doing this from my mother's basement, and I was like a little abattoir, and I had people gagged and tied. The camera. Okay. That would have been funny. When things get better, I'm going to do that. Is the camera moving? You know what? F me. F me. I'm angry. Everybody gets to have a good podcast where nothing goes wrong. And I got to look at this now to calm down. Excuse me, I'm upset. That's Donald. That is an actual AI video of Donald Trump covered in bed bugs from Mar-a-Lago. That is AI, actual, honest-to-God AI. And it calms me down. Where was I? Sorry. Is anybody still here? And if so, why? What was I talking about? Something I care very much about. Hang on, we have a message. Got to bring the show back.
And now we return to America's 400,000 and 353rd most popular podcast in the category of moderately left of center. Please welcome David Ferdman.
That's my meat talking, my lab-grown meat. Tess, cannot wait to fry her up. I do that in my basement. What was I talking about? Okay. ICE getting $45 billion to hold as many as 100,000 inmates. And I'm keeping my hands down. And it could be 200,000 inmates. If I didn't do this show, this is becoming a police state, a prison state. I mean, it already is. We already have 2.2 million people behind bars. Now you got the Gestapo, ICE, able to do it with no due process. This $45 billion will be handed over to the for-profit detention corporations, Geo Group and CoreCivic. And according to The Nation, this $45 billion increase on top of what ICE is already getting. This is $45 billion just to build out the detention facilities. That is more than the combined budgets for the prison systems in all 50 states. So we can keep 2.2 million Americans behind bars. But the for-profit prison companies, CoreCivic and Geo Group, need $45 billion to house 200,000. See how that works? They were the big donors. To Donald Trump last year. And their stock, after he won, soared 60-70% immediately after. So who do you think Tom Homan, the border czar, is going to be working for after he leaves government? He just got $45 billion delivered to CoreCivic and Geo Group. Where do you think he's going to go work? The Nation says the Federal Bureau of Prisons spends $8.3 billion a year to house its prisoners. ICE is getting a $45 billion, keep your hands down, ICE is getting a $45 billion bump just to build more prisons. 45, so that's more to house 200,000 migrants. It costs $45 billion to house 200,000 migrants. That's more than it costs to house 2.2 million Americans who should not be behind bars either. This is a prison state. We've always been a police state. If you're not white, this is a police state. And now you got ICE that doesn't have to obey due process. That's this 2026 budget bill. And nobody's talking about this. And everything is falling apart. Hey, I'm wearing no pants and no underwear. So enjoy. I got to take a vacation. What's going on? You mother of Jesus Christ, mother. Hang on. You know, if I wanted, I'm sorry I wasn't wearing any underwear or pants. By the way, if I really wanted to be a success, you know, like on TikTok or YouTube or Twitch, they're just a baby boomer having tech problems is pornography for Gen Z. Just watching an old guy trying to stay relevant. What's happening right now, Gen Zers, Maxwell Frost, makes him hard watching an old man in the death throes of his career trying to get the technology to work. I'm sorry I wasn't wearing any pants or underwear. Sorry, I got to go back and look at this. I focus. I need this to focus. Yes, I'm mentally ill, and I need to look at Donald Trump scraping bed bugs from Mar-a-Lago off his body. This is what calms me down. This makes me happy. Makes me less. That is actual artificial intelligence. Genuine, 100% true and accurate artificial intelligence of that turd, Donald Trump. Okay, I should wrap it up. Tess?
And now we return to America's 400,000 and 353rd most popular podcast in the category of moderately left of center. Please welcome David Ferdman.
Thank you, Tess. That is my lab-grown meat. So they're turning $45 billion over to in the bill, the budget bill, $45 billion for for-profit prisons, concentration camps. Where where to save money, they offer, I'm not making this up, an extra bowl of soup to the inmates if they're willing to do janitorial work. This is this is the same bill that cut Medicaid by 20%, food stamps by 15%. But there's money for Geo Group and Core Civic. $45 billion for Geo Group and Core Civic to boost their stock price. The Cato Institute, funded by the Koch brothers, reports that this year border enforcement accounts for 2/3 of our nation's entire law enforcement budget. That's this year. Cato estimates 25% of the entire 2026 budget will be spent on mass deportations, which Trump is promising to come in at 1 million a year. And they're doing 3,000 a day now. They're doing 3,000 a day. The Cato Institute says the new bill calls for the hiring of 10,000 new ICE agents with signing bonuses of $10,000 each. Cato estimates that the spending bill sets the stage for ICE being able to detain 200,000 migrants at one time in for-profit detention centers. It'll take about 3 years. 200,000 migrants at one time. Remember the loophole in the 13th Amendment? This is slavery, slave labor. Right now, ICE's official detention capacity is under 40,000. We can only handle 40,000 migrants detained. You get past that, it's a crime against humanity. We're currently holding 57,000 migrants in overcrowded cells, many of them, the migrants getting one meal a day with no beds, no soap, no showers, no drinkable water, diabetics on the floor writhing without insulin. At least 10 migrants this year have died in these for-profit ICE detention facilities. And as I said, there's no money for Medicaid or food stamps. No soap, water, beds for the migrants. Yet stock in Core Civic and Geo Group has increased by nearly 60% since Donald Trump was elected in November. Well, here's the good news. Here's the good news. This bill can be reversed. That's the good news. This bill, all of it, can be reversed. None of this is permanent. A lot of stuff that got passed by Joe Biden's Inflation Reduction Act now being rescinded by this budget. A lot can happen in a year. A lot of these cuts don't go into effect until after the midterms. So, good news. Good news. This budget bill has passed, but it's still a blueprint unless, it doesn't become permanent unless we don't win. It will become permanent unless we don't win the midterms. That's how it works. That's how it works. So we have to win the midterms. That's how it works.